Dominic Cummings is back to expose the establishment. Ursula von der Leyen imposes Marxism onto Europe, and Boris Johnson plans to change the London mayoral electoral system. Well, we've had a lot of drama today in Westminster, from David Davis exposing Nicola Sturgeon and the SNP, and Dominic Cummings is back to expose all the Whitehall machine and everybody else. He was in front of the committee in Parliament today, and we're going to talk about what he actually said. But before we start, I need a big favor from you guys watching this. We had some issues with the YouTube algorithm recently in terms of sharing our video on this platform. So I'm going to actually need you guys to make sure that you're subscribed, but not only that, click on the notification bell next to it and click on all to make sure that you're notified when I release my daily programs at 5:45 p.m. and 8 p.m. Otherwise, our videos are not being shared for some reason. But considering we're talking about the big establishments like YouTube, let's talk about Whitehall, because this guy is back. Dominic Cummings, since he resigned and left Downing Street last year, towards the end of last year, there have been a lot of speculations about what he's going to do next and whether he's going to come back to comment. Well, parliamentarians invited him back to Parliament to ask him certain questions about how things have gone, his opinion on Matt Hancock, on Rishi Sunak, on the European Union, the NHS, and all the bureaucrats and civil servants. It was quite juicy. First, he destroyed Matt Hancock and the level of competence, or lack of it, that Matt Hancock has as the health secretary. He said that his department, the health department, is a smoking ruin and it's an absolute mess. The whole situation with the beginning of lockdown and everything that started in the beginning of 2020 with the PPE contracts and everything else, all the mess that they created in the NHS and the health department is the reason that people like Dominic Cummings wanted to take the power away from them. And that's what they did. He said that the whole thing was a mess. And we saw the first few weeks, the first couple of months of the lockdown, how the government just seemed all over the place. It was because of certain individuals and systems that we have in place. So that partly they wanted to take away certain issues and kind of powers, including the vaccination program, away from Matt Hancock and his department. And that's what they did. He says that the only reason that this whole program with AstraZeneca and Pfizer are successful in the UK is because we took the power away from Matt Hancock's department. And as I said, with everything that happened with PPEs and certain other contracts, dodgy contracts that happened with Matt Hancock, I don't blame them for doing this move. Now, the thing that we have is that he's also said that the European Union sent a proposal for the UK to be part of their program. And luckily, thanks to Brexit, we didn't have to do it. It wasn't mandatory, but there were certain people in government who wanted to be part of this EU program. The interesting thing about this situation is that we had Dominic Cummings coming to expose not just Matt Hancock as an individual, as a minister, but his department, but also certain other areas that we've had. This is why Katie Bowles actually wrote an article earlier saying that, well, Dominic Cummings' return will worry number 10. I can imagine a lot of people woke up in the Westminster bubble, going to work, completely panicking about what Dominic was about to expose. Because, he could say anything. He's a bit rogue and he doesn't have to go with the consensus. He then went on to destroy the Whitehall bureaucrats and the people who make things difficult in Westminster. There is this new scientific agency that's valued at £800 million. And he actually said that instead of having the usual boring and dull and bureaucratic civil service in charge, you need odd, very odd people in charge. People who are not part of the establishment, people who are slightly different, people who the civil service don't like Dominic himself and people around him. He's actually said that it's time to take the focus away from the usual groups in Whitehall. And when it comes to oversight, you need these very odd people in charge instead of having your classic Sir Humphrey type civil servants to be running it. And it's actually true. We've had a lot of issues recently, well, for years, but especially recently with the bureaucrats making things difficult. The government is getting bigger and bigger. The tax burden is at its highest that we've had in a long time. And there's absolutely no opposition to it. The opposition to this government is the Labour Party, and they want an even bigger government. So the people in this country out there have no choice. It's simply between the Conservatives and the Labour Party. There's no appetite at this point in the establishment to decentralise, to make things more efficient and simplified. Now, the next group of people he decided to destroy were the European Union. He actually called them anti-science. And because these people are going with their own ideology of Eurofederalism and taking over the whole continent, making everything centralized. And Dominic Cummings, who was leading the Vote Leave campaign against the European Union, has said that, well, thank God we had Brexit. Otherwise, we'll be in a lot more trouble like the mainland Europe. He's actually called the European Union anti-science, anti-technology culture, and yeah, it's appalling bureaucracy that we've seen in Brussels that's causing all these troubles. Whether it's with AstraZeneca or whether with the export bans that we are seeing from Brussels, and we're going to talk about that as well. But when you have the European Medicines Agency, their own bureaucratic body, saying that, well, AstraZeneca seems to be fine, but then Macron and the others go around and spread all these rumors, well, people are listening to their politicians. They don't listen to the EMA on this issue. So the whole thing is completely divided. Now, before we continue with Ursula von der Leyen and what she's done, Rishi Sunak was the next target and topic for Dominic Cummings earlier today. Cummings argued that the cut that we had from this government when it comes to the aid budget came from Dominic Cummings and people like him. And thank God for that, because it was about time for us to actually review the aid budgets. We've been wasting a lot of money when we already have a lot of issues in our own country. And, he said that the Treasury, as usual, were quite difficult to deal with, but we had to do it. And this is one of the, again, reasons that when we see problems in Whitehall, a lot of them come from the Treasury or the Home Office. And finally, he said something that's very, very worrying for everyone in the Westminster bubble, especially Downing Street. He said, "I'm very happy to come back and answer any and all questions about how Number 10 works, why I left, all the crazy stories that have been in the media. I'm happy to clarify those." Well, that's quite juicy. And again, he could do a lot now that he's left. He could start a YouTube channel to expose Whitehall. He could start, write a book about these issues that he's seen in government. But I'm pretty sure certain figures in Downing Street would not be happy about that. Now, going back to Ursula von der Leyen, she actually came out to once again ban exports to the UK. Even though about a month ago she did this, she came out, apologized, saying, "Oh, yeah, we didn't actually mean to say that. That wasn't really the plan."
We will reflect on whether exports to countries who have higher vaccination rates than us are still proportionate.
Now, not only she's decided to do this, she's also imposing Marxism. Yes, Ursula von der Leyen, the head of the European Commission, has said that the European Union could seize production of vaccines and suspend intellectual property rights. Seizing the means of production. Remind you of anybody? Karl Marx. This is exactly the problem I have with the European Union. On the one hand, they are corporatist capitalists and they claim to be free traders. They're not. And on the other hand, they are big government nannies who actually want to, at times, they're probably worse than socialists because, socialism also wants to centralize everything, but the intention is actually to give more power to the people. At least that's what the ideology says. The European Union doesn't even pretend to do that. But speaking of power and centralization, Sadiq Khan has had a great 4 or 5 years in power. And, he's very popular. He's a great mayor of London. No, he's not. But his election is coming up. And Boris Johnson, in his manifesto, the last election, he actually promised to make some changes to the voting system, especially when it comes to on the local level and regional level. So the current system that we have in London is a preference voting. So people basically have more than one vote. This is exactly why the Labour Party keep winning in London. The government have said that they want to change it to first past the post. Now, this is slightly controversial, and you know why, because a lot of people are not happy with first past the post, the way we do the general elections, but I can sort of defend it. I'm not happy with the system either, the way it works, but there are a number of issues around it that makes it difficult. But Priti Patel has said that a number of departments, Home Office, Cabinet Office, and Minister of Housing are getting together to change the electoral system, the issue that we have. And she's actually right that the first past the post, which awards seats in general elections to whomever has the highest vote count and does not take into account preferences, provides for stronger and clear local accountability. On the one hand, the current system in London is not fair because people have more than one vote, essentially. And this is exactly why the left-wing parties will do much better. That's not the reason to change it. The reason is just that it's unfair, not because the left-wing parties win. But I know that the first past the post is not fair on smaller parties because, you know, you don't have to get more than 50%. But we could have a reform version of first past the post because as long as there's one person, one vote, that's all I care about. Otherwise, we could make some changes. So maybe some sort of hybrid between the two. The system is going to change, not this election, the next election. So Sadiq Khan, you're okay. You're probably going to win this one too. Now, while this is happening, the establishment are once again freaking out. We have the Electoral Reform Society coming out to tweet, imposing first past the post on the Mayor of London and mayoral elections across the UK is a major step backwards that will see million pound budgets handed to people the majority didn't want. Yeah, that's not how it works, but okay. Then they continued by saying that with all the challenges facing this country right now, making it easier for unpopular candidates to win mayoral elections should not even be in the government's to-do list. The problem we have is that in 2011, we had a national referendum and people rejected this sort of system that we currently have on a national level. So if they've already voted against AV and alternative voting, then we could also make changes on a local and regional level. As I said, the people who are not completely happy with first past the post like me, we could have a more reformed version of that. As long as it's not, you know, one person, 700 votes, that's all that matters. But there's going to be a lot of backlash when it comes to this Dominic Cummings appearance, and there will be more to talk about as usual on this channel. I'll keep you guys posted. As I said earlier at the beginning of the video, do not forget to subscribe to the channel and click on the notification bell next to it and click on all, not personalized. I don't know why, but we're having some issues with the YouTube algorithm that our videos are not being shown to everybody, including the subscribers. So you might be a subscriber, but you won't really come up on your homepage anymore. So the best thing to do is to click on the bell to be notified when I release my videos at 5:45 p.m. and 8 p.m. every night. Thanks again for watching. I'm Tousi, and I'll see you guys in the next video.